Welcome back to the Customer Success Pro podcast. My name is Anika Zubair, and this is the show where we treat customer success like what it actually is, a revenue function. And in today's episode, we are talking about two things that go together more than people realize. And it's AI for your quarterly business review prep and how to build a value story that is absolutely board ready. So I want you to tune in if either you are a customer success professional or a customer success leader, because I want your quarterly business review to be not just ready for your customer, but for your customer's board, and that you can use at your own board reports. Because the honest reality is most customer success professionals are starting to use AI, and it's really, really cool how everyone is using AI. But they are using it to do the wrong job faster, if I can say so. And by the end of this episode, you are going to know exactly how to point the same tool that you're using every single day, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude or any other AI tool like Gemini that you might be using. And I want you to actually use that tool to protect and grow revenue, and then report on it correctly so that your board and your customer's board really sees value in your product and service. So let's get into today's episode. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Anika Zubair, and welcome to the Customer Success Pro podcast, your go-to space for real talk, expert advice, and actionable insights in the world of customer success. I'm a CS executive leader, award-winning strategist, CS coach, and customer success fanatic. I help CSMs and CS leaders build the skills and the confidence to become revenue-driving pros and scale world-class CS teams. So whether you're brand new to CS or a seasoned leader, this podcast is here to support your growth. Because customer success isn't a destination, it's a journey. And I'm here to be your guide and navigate every step of your journey. So join me every Wednesday where you'll get fresh CS tips, tricks, and strategies you can actually use. Some weeks I'll share my own insights and best practices from working in CS over the last 13 years. And once a month, I'll bring on expert guests to dive into the most relevant and pressing topics in customer success today. So if you're ready to level up, hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you tune in, and let's make your CS journey a little bit easier together. Okay, let me give you a number that stopped me when I read it, okay? According to McKinsey, around 60% of work hours are spent on data collection and preparation, not analysis or action, just on gathering information and the prep. 60% gathering, getting all that information, not actually critically thinking about it, just looking for the data. And this shows up the most in quarterly business review prep. Some CSMs report spending 8 to even 12 hours preparing for a single quarterly review or strategic conversation with a customer. They end up pulling information from the CRM, then usage analytics, then the support tickets, then finance records, then trying to mash it all together into something that makes sense. And 8 to 12 hours for one meeting is just crazy, by the way. And I know sometimes with AI, we are speeding this up, but just think about it. How many accounts are you actually managing? 10, 20, 15, 50? If you're spending 8 to 12 hours on just one, how much of your week is going into preparation? Now, the part that really, really gets me is we are now living in 2026, and there is an AI co-pilot inside of almost every single tool that you touch right now. Like, truly, if you work in tech and software, AI is a part of every single tool. But yet, in one of the biggest customer success benchmark reports, 72% of customer success leaders said AI would be critical to their success this year, while only 32% were actually running even one live AI use case. So there's a huge gap there, and I want you to sit with that for a second. There's almost 3/4 of people who believe in it, but there's less than 1/3 of people who are actually using it. And this is not a technology gap, okay? This is something that I like to consider is a confidence gap or AI curiosity gap or AI intelligence gap. And the small group who are using it well are not building chatbots. They're doing boring, powerful things like auto generating their QBR content to reclaim hours and so that they can actually have strategic conversations. And one CS leader actually reported cutting 30 plus hours out of quarterly renewals and churn reporting just by letting AI do the assembly. So the opportunity in front of you is not can like AI make my deck faster? The opportunity is what do I do with the 10 hours that I just got back? And what story do I end up telling my customers when I'm not buried in spreadsheets and data analysis? And that is exactly what I want to talk to you about. I want to talk about how most QBRs are retrospective status updates dressed up as a strategy meeting with your customer. But think about the typical structure. Slide 1, agenda. Slide 2, here's your adoption metrics or how you're using us. Slide 3, here's your usage trend. Slide 4, here are your open tickets or outstanding bug reports or outstanding product feedback. Slide 5, here's the product roadmap. Slide 6, thank you so much. See you again in 90 days. And the whole time we're doing this, the CSM is doing most of the talking. The deck is about the product, and the metrics are probably just vanity metrics like logins, number of seats utilized, features usage, things that are true, but that no executive has ever taken into a budget meeting and fought for. And so now there's a layer of AI on top of all of this. So what do most people do? They use AI to build that exact same self-serving deck, but just faster. They have now automated the wrong thing. And I think this is going to keep happening in customer success is where we're starting to automate things because of AI. But the way we do things, or the way we did things, I should say, is broken. We end up taking a meeting that was already backwards and made it backwards in half the time. How does that even make sense? And let me just name the specific mistakes because you are probably already doing at least one of them in your role, because I know I was doing them. And some of the mistakes I see is that CS professionals start to lead with adoption instead of outcomes in quarterly business reviews. So you tell your customer how much of your product they have used, not what's changed in their business because they did something. And that is just such a pity because in this world of AI, your customer is looking to you to almost become the advisor or that business consultant that's able to really take them from step 1 to step 2. Okay, another mistake that I end up saying is there's no baseline, or you just kind of show your customer in your business review like where they are right now, but you never remind them of the room where they actually started. So what did their environment look like, or what did their organization look like before they got your product and service? And a number with no before means absolutely nothing. Like improvement ends up being invisible. And without a starting line, you're just playing in the dark. And your value story is also something that's just not going to resonate with executives or the board at your customer. And then another mistake I see is you never actually connect everything back to money. And I know this sounds pretty harsh, but if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know that I love connecting everything back to revenue because we all work at for-profit businesses. We work at businesses that are trying to make money. So your customer is trying to make money every single day. And by using your software, they're trying to, in some ways, make money. Now, is it directly related? Maybe not. But there is probably an indirect connection. And what we end up doing as CS professionals, we talk about hours saved or tickets closed, but you never actually translate that back into either revenue protected or cost reduced or growth created. And if you can't tie it to revenue, it doesn't matter because your CFO at your customer isn't going to see that either. So you want to tie that back. All right, mistake number 4 is the economic buyer is not even in the room. And this happens too often. And I know that we say we are good at stakeholder management and customer success, but let's be honest for a second. Most CS professionals and most CS teams have one, maybe two contacts at a customer, and they lose touch with the executive buyer. And then you're doing this quarterly business review, and the QBR just falls flat because the champion shows up alone. And if the only person that's listening to you is the daily user, the conversational stays tactical and practical, but the renewal is at risk because your executive buyer isn't seeing the value story that you're painting. And the last mistake I will point out is a really big one. And I've personally done this. And I had to really rechange the way my brain was working when I did quarterly business reviews. And I had to really think about this because it's a common mistake that I see a lot of customer success professionals that I work with every day still make today. And the mistake is that there's no forward bet. Basically, what I mean is that you end up summarizing the past and you just stopped. You never point at what's next or what they're going to do after this call is done. A value story that ends in the past doesn't create expansion. It just closes a chapter, and they're looking to you for what's next. So that's the thing. You're spending 8 to 12 hours building this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful retrospective that the one person who signs the renewal can't even report back to their own boss or to their own board. And that's what we're going to fix today. So let us fix it. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to build instead. I want you to build a board-ready value story. And this applies to CS leaders, by the way, as well. Instead of reporting on metrics, I want you to articulate the value story to your CFO or to your board of investors so that they really understand the value behind what customer success is doing. And of course, I have a framework for it because I wouldn't be me without a framework. I love structure. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know I love a step-by-step process. And the framework I want you to steal and I want you to use it on your very next business review is really in simple. It's called the board method, or what I see as the board method. And it's built so that an executive who was not in your business review could read one slide and understand the entire value of what your product and service does in 30 seconds. Okay? So BOARD. 5 different layers. Let me walk you through each one and how your QBR should be structured and exactly where you should let AI do the heavy lifting in this. All right, B, baseline. Okay? You got to have a baseline. Where did this customer actually start? What was broken, slow, expensive, risky? What didn't work before you and your product showed up? Okay, you cannot prove value if you never establish the before. So your story opens at a starting line, not at today, but really where were they? Where did they start before your product helped them? And where AI helps, by the way, is point your AI co-pilot at the original onboarding notes, the first 3 calls, the initial success plan, and ask it to pull out the customer's stated goals and pains from day one. That is your baseline. And it took you 90 seconds instead of an afternoon of scrolling because you already have all this data, but now you need to just prompt AI to correctly evaluate and analyze this data for you. All right, O is for outcome. And this is what has actually changed. Not what they used, but what's moved the needle for them. Was it onboarding time that was dropped? Was it a process that took 5 days and now only takes them 1 day? This is their own customers are renewing at a higher rate maybe, or they're selling more deals. The outcome is always about their business, never about your features. So what has changed in their business? And where you can actually utilize AI is feed usage data plus support history plus call transcripts and ask your AI tool, what business outcomes can we evidence from this quarter, and which goals from the baseline did we actually move? And it connects the dots between the raw data and the real results way, way faster than any human can. And again, it builds a better narrative for a value story for you. All right, quick pause from the podcast. I want to talk to you for a moment, especially if you are leading a customer team. And there's a pain that I know a lot of customer success leaders are feeling, which is they have CSMs who are absolutely brilliant and crushing it with customers who know the product inside and out, who genuinely care. And then they walk into quarterly business reviews and present usage charts. They run check-in calls that should be value calls. And when they get to renewal conversations, they are suddenly negotiating on price because nobody ever built the value case earlier. And every quarter, revenue that your team should have protected ends up slipping through the gaps, not because your people are not good, but because no one ever actually trained them to think and speak like a revenue owner. Now, picture this other version of your team. Picture a team that walks into every review with a board-ready value story already built. A team that opens with money conversations, not usage or logins. A team that when a customer pushes back at renewal has a documented trail of outcomes, attributions, and revenue that makes the renewal feel obvious. Picture your net revenue retention climbing, not because you hired more people, but because the people you have finally know how to prove and grow value. That is exactly what I build with teams inside of my storytelling and value workshops. We take your CSMs from check-in calls to value calls. We teach ROI and value storytelling, objection handling for renewals, and how to turn a quarterly business review into a commercial conversation. And it's hands-on and it is built around your actual customer accounts, and your team will walk away with the skills that end up growing revenue, okay? Not just an inspirational or motivational talk, but practical and tactical ways to grow revenue. And if your team is sitting on revenue and they are not actually protecting or growing it, then this is the fix for you. Let's bring a workshop into your team today. Head over to thecustomersuccesspro.com/team-event and let's build a workshop for your team together. All right, let's jump back into the episode. All right, moving on to A. A is for attribution. And this is the layer almost every single one, every person I know skips. And it is the one that protects you at renewal. So if you are responsible for renewal, attribution is where you make it honestly undeniable that the outcome that happened is because of your product and your partnership and all the work that you've done together. Not by accident, not because of the market changes, but because of this. All right, so what is it that you've done? So where AI can help with this is ask it to map each outcome back to a specific feature, a workflow, a module, initiative, a campaign, something that drove it, and flag where the link is strong versus where you are maybe guessing. So again, ask it to give you some feedback as well. Strong attribution is the difference between we kept you and you happen to do well while paying us. Okay? Let's move on to R. R is for revenue. Now you translate every outcome and every outcome becomes a number a finance leader respects. So whether time saved because salaries were reduced, or faster onboarding because faster time to value, which becomes revenue recognized sooner, or maybe lower churn on their side, which becomes protecting reoccurring revenue. You are doing the math so the executive doesn't have to. I've said this time and time again on multiple podcasts, but I want you to remember, make the math make sense for the executives. Make the math make sense for your CFO. And where AI helps with all of this is give it the outcome and the customer's own numbers if they've shared it with you, and ask it to model the financial impact in 3 different ways. You're not inventing numbers. All you're doing is you're framing real ones in the language of the people who control the budget back to your product and service. All right, final letter. D is for direction. So you end by pointing forward, okay? I said this earlier, I made this mistake when I was building out QBRs, is I always ended with a look back rather than a look forward. You want to end with pointing forward. So maybe it's something like, hey, here, customer, here's everything that we achieved, and here is the next bet that I think will help you grow to XYZ. The white space that we haven't touched is where we're going to focus on in this next quarter, okay? And just make it very clear that the team has not onboarded yet or we haven't done this yet, but expansion that would actually help them is the result here. And the direction is what turns every value story into an expansion conversation. So instead of a polite goodbye, you want to direct them towards growth and what's next. And that, again, has to be you directing them to the future and the next bet that they want to make. So where does AI help with all of this? Well, I want you to ask AI to scan the account for unused features, untouched like team logins, and patterns that look like most successful expansion accounts. So also share with AI the accounts that have expanded successfully. And it will hand you the forward bet on a plate. It will basically analyze exactly what your other customers are doing, exactly what this customer is stuck on and what features they're not using, and give you the direction forward that you need to then showcase to the customer. So that's it. That's the BOARD method. Nothing fancy, but it is important to remember that you need to start with a baseline, then move to outcomes, then consider attribution, then move into revenue, and finally end with forward direction. And notice what AI is doing here. It's not telling your story, by the way. Value storytelling, that is up to you. As a customer success professional, as a customer success leader, it is up to you to tell the value story. But what it is doing is it's removing the 8 to 12 hours of deck assembly, data analysis, data gathering, and that what it's allowing you to do is the part that only humans can do, which is read the room, know which outcome the buyer actually cares about, and then delivering a closing value argument that not only leads to your renewal, but to a growth or expansion opportunity as well. And speaking of doing human work, well, let me pause for 1 second, because if this is landing for you, the next thing I'm about to say is exactly for you, okay? Let me tell you why I care about this so much. Early in my career as a CSM, I built what I thought was the perfect quarterly business review deck. I am talking hours of work, okay? Beautiful charts, every usage metric color-coded. I was so proud of it. I walked into a senior stakeholder meeting from the customer, and a whole bunch of other senior stakeholders also joined this meeting, and I started presenting, and the adoption was up, logins were really strong, and I started to show feature usage. And about 4, maybe 5 slides in, I watched the senior executives pick up his phone. Not rudely, he didn't pick up a call or anything, but he just picked up his phone and started to write messages, and then shortly after picking up his phone, he just left, okay? Not physically, but mentally. He was gone. He was really not in that meeting anymore. And at the end, he said something that, honestly, I haven't forgotten, and it's really stuck with me. He said something along the lines where, Anika, this is a lot of activity, but can you remind me what we're actually getting out of this? And that question really, it was a gut punch to me, because I had spent 10 hours providing all this data that they used our product, and 0 minutes actually proving what it was actually worth, if anything. So after that meeting, I rebuilt my deck, same account, and next quarter, this time I opened completely differently. I said, 12 months ago, your team was spending 2 full days a week on a manual process. And today, that is down to 2 hours. And that is roughly a full headcount of capacity that you got back. And here is what that is worth and how we're making it happen for your organization. I did not show a single login chart. I led with the baseline, the outcome, the attribution, the money. And that same stakeholder, the one who checked out and was looking at his phone, leaned forward and said, can you send me this deck? I want to take it to my leadership team. And that is the difference. Same product, same data, a completely different story. And I want to leave you with a little bit of a metaphor. And I hope this resonates, and I hope this helps you remember this story a little bit more. And what it is I want to tell you that a status report and a closing argument, they use the same evidence, but they're not the same thing. A status report lists exactly what happens. A closing argument takes that same evidence and builds it into a case so clear that the verdict feels inevitable. And your QBR is not a status report. So if that's one thing you take away from this podcast, is just a reminder that you're not doing a status report. What you are doing is a closing argument for your own renewal. And AI can gather all the evidence in minutes, but you are the lawyer or the attorney, and you decide what the case is about. You decide what the jury, the people who control the budget, actually need to believe. So stop filing reports and start actually building your closing arguments. All right. In every solo episode, if you are new here, what I love to do with my listeners is I love to challenge you to basically have a weekly challenge, because I can sit here all day and tell you wonderful stories and wonderful frameworks about how to become more strategic and revenue focused in customer success. But the thing is, if you don't actually put all of this into implementation and you actually start using it, I'm just here to be entertainment for you, which is great. But I know a lot of you who are working in customer success are extremely ambitious, and that is why I have my weekly challenges. So here is your challenge for this week. And of course, it's going to be tactical as long as you do it for real. All right. I want you to take your very next QBR, and I only want you to try this with one, okay? Before you start to build a whole new template based on what I've shared, just try it with one, okay? And before you build a single slide in that new QBR, I want you to open up your AI tool of choice and pull the baseline, okay? Feed in your onboarding notes, your early calls with the customer, and ask for the customer's original goals and pain points, and write down where they started, okay? And I just want you to do that. And everything else that I've laid out in this podcast will become so much more natural if you actually understand what outcome your customer is trying to achieve. And then again, what is the attribution or what's changed for them this quarter? And I want you to just tie all this back to your product once you understand, okay? And the last thing I want you to do, and this one matters the most, is I want you to rewrite your opening slide so that the first thing out of your mouth is the money. It's the revenue protected, the cost avoided, or the growth created. Not the agenda, not the adoption, money first. And I know that's going to sound cringe and awkward because you're probably used to some small talk and you're probably used to agenda. But the first thing I want you to open with is how much money did you help that business grow? And if you do only that one thing, if you lead with revenue instead of leading with usage, you will feel your entire QBR room change. I promise you. And to make this easier, I have a free resource for you. It's my revenue in QBR guide, and it walks you through turning a usage review into a revenue conversation step by step. So if you want to go grab it, it's absolutely free. The link is down in the show notes, and I want you to use it to build a quarterly business review where you're actually challenging yourself this week to talk about revenue first. All right. I want to bring us all back and wrap up this episode. We started with a very hard truth, and I know that you guys are using AI to automate your QBRs, but what are you actually automating? Remind yourself that you need to tell a strong value story, so make sure AI is doing the work so that you're able to tell that value story. Also, don't forget to use the board method, which is baseline, outcome, attribution, revenue, and direction. All 5 layers with AI so that you end up removing the busy work on every single one of your accounts so that you can do the human work, the more strategic, impactful work of reading the room and making sure you have a strong closing argument. And what I want you to remember is AI is not going to replace the customer success pro who can tell a board-ready value story. It's going to expose the CS professionals who only ever knew how to read out usage charts. Okay, I want you to be the first one, meaning the one that's able to tell a board story. Now, if this episode lit something up for you and you want to become the kind of CSM who walks into any room and owns the revenue conversation, then that is the entire reason why we have RevUp Academy. And it exists purely for people like you. It is my 6-week cohort program where we build the commercial and strategic skills that make you a revenue-generating CSM, and skills like value storytelling, using the right executive language, making sure renewal and expansion feel natural. All of this is part of RevUp Academy, and you can actually sign up to be our VIP within RevUp Academy at thecustomersuccesspro.com/RevUp. Doors are opening in September, and I really want you to be a revenue-first strategic customer success manager, so come join us inside of RevUp. And if you're listening to this episode and it's your whole team that maybe needs this sort of help and needs to be able to tell a value story to executives, well, I train full global teams on how to articulate ROI and value to a customer. And if you want to bring a workshop to your team, then just get in touch. Or again, there's a link down in the show notes for you to book me or book a team workshop. All right, that's all for this episode. If you got value from this episode and you are finding value in this show, the one thing that you can do that would mean the world to me and that would keep this podcast running for free at no cost to you would be just hitting that subscribe button on either Spotify or on Apple. There is actually over 50% of you that listen to the show week after week, and you still haven't hit that subscribe button. It's absolutely free. And when you do hit that button, it tells the little algorithm bots exactly where to serve up content and expand this show. So if you want this show to stay free, if you could just follow the podcast, subscribe wherever you are listening. And if you want to, you can leave a comment down below. I love reading each one of your comments. It means the world to me. So I cannot wait to hear about how your next QBR prep is landing. Leave me a comment down below. I read every single one of them. I want to hear from you. All right, my name is Anika Zubair, and this is the Customer Success Pro podcast. And remember, a renewal is a sale, and your value story is how you close that sale. I will see you next week for our next episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Customer Success Pro podcast. I hope you picked up something valuable to take back to your team. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the world to me if you took just 10 seconds to leave a review on Apple or Spotify. It helps more CS pros like yourself discover the show. And creating new episodes takes a lot of work, so leaving a nice review keeps me motivated to keep creating. And don't forget to hit subscribe on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcast episodes. I drop a new episode every Wednesday packed with practical tips. And if you've got a topic you'd love for me to cover or want to be a guest on my show, send me a message. All the details are in the show notes. I'd love to hear from you. And hey, if this episode helped you, share it with a fellow CSM or CS leader. Remember, sharing is caring. Cheers to your CS journey, and I'll catch you next week for our next episode.